on another morning wood here on Pay Me No Mind. Get into a little bit of bite down boxing with some thoughts on the weekend's action. But first, I wanted to touch base on. It's been going on the last, I guess, maybe since this whole CBA that we're currently in with the NFL has been in place. But as teams continue to turn to analytics, and all of this data gathering and whatnot, and basing, personnel moves off of it, something that kind of disgusts me. And it came to a head this week as I'm watching ESPN's Bobby Carpenter on ESPN in studio doing some analyst work for tackling some of the early NFL issues and as we get ready to get in camp and whatnot. And Bobby Carpenter says that he's talking about addressing the Ezekiel Elliott situation, the contract situation with the Cowboys, and he's just casually says, well, I'm not a proponent of paying running backs. And I'm just like, damn, as a former player, you're still part of that fraternity. I mean, he had a couple seasons or a few seasons in the NFL. I'm not, that versed on what he did for the entirety of his career, but he was a professional, NFL player. But to sit here and get to speaking on a position's value and money, and then talking about a fellow Buckeye. So maybe he's keeping it funky, and doing his job as an analyst. But I just don't think his role was really to get in providing his analysis and his opinion. I don't think he really needed to speak specifically on compensation and what a player can command. But like I said, you still have to go around these guys to cover certain events, to cover certain games, and so on and so forth. And to cross the line like that and to turn around and say that, I'm not a proponent of paying running backs, that's just bad business to me. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because similar to the situation with Melvin Gordon, and just the lack of respect and value we saw with Le'Veon Bell, this is an individual's decision. They're not just going to extend you and give you the contracts that these quarterbacks get. Kirk Cousins getting a 3-year, $84 million fully guaranteed deal. His record against 500 and better teams is deplorable. It's a joke. His record in primetime games is ridiculous. His record against the arch rivals and the Cowboys and in the division itself with the Giants and the Eagles doesn't even merit that. But just because he had a couple of 4,500 plus yard seasons, and even I think he might have had a 30 touchdown season or something. But he gets that type of money without any real, conflict or consternation or anything. There's tons of examples like that. All the money that Stafford gets up in Detroit to rarely go to the playoffs, to rarely have a winning record at the end of the season. So here it is, we have two running backs who are pretty central pieces to the team. I mean, it's not even up for debate with Ezekiel Elliott. And I don't care if you have 2 years on the deal or whatever it is. This is why I just was telling my wife, this is why you can't be up in the club throwing money around and making it rain and doing all of the things that you might want to do as a young athlete, a young successful athlete. You as a running back, you might have to sit back and live on, 30% of your first deal, or something less than that. Just so when it comes to this time right here and you've clearly outperformed, you can eliminate the emotion out of it, the desperation out of it. You can have what you have sitting aside, and you can say, nah, man, I'm not coming to work. Because now with this CBA, if you don't report to camp, they're taking money from you daily for not coming, for not being in camp. You're losing money for missing preseason games. It's not even advantageous anymore for you to just sit back and miss all this time, and then at the end of it, if the contract gets done, it's kind of a wash. Now it's punitive. You know what I'm saying? It's real money that you're losing. So once you go down that path, and start it, you might as well see it through. And I understand the Chargers could be in a bit of a quandary with coming off the money for Melvin. He's been injured a little bit, I think. He's not the face of the league type guy like an Ezekiel Elliott, but he is very important to that unit, and they're better with him than without him. But in the sense of and I'm a Redskins fan, but hey, I mean, if you're not gonna pay Ezekiel, and then I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna move on. But when you want to factor in analytics and how you don't tie those analytics to the team winning with Ezekiel Elliott on the field and with him in the backfield and on a particular play versus one of the other guys being on, how the analytics aren't in his favor to make this decision. Like, look at the touches that I have in the passing game and the running game. Look at the hits that I take for all of that. Just the wear and tear. It's 2 and 3, 4 guys hitting me on each possession, each time I touch the ball. You want my yards after first contact. You want me picking up blitzes in the, in the passing to support the passing game and whatnot. The impact of me in play action. And how it makes those plays better when I'm just on the field. Like, I can't even be spelled then. I need to be out there so that this play action works. So again, I don't know how the analytics from the player's perspective, it demands that you take this position. And so again, just going back to Bobby Carpenter to sit on TV and say, I'm not a proponent of paying running backs. As a former player, that's pretty disappointing. Moving on to a little bit of boxing. Where's my time at? Okay. Whyte-Rivas this weekend. I believe the DAZN picked that up. And I've already given my PBC thoughts. Pretty much. I mean, I could go into my winners, I guess, on the undercard, but I pretty much. The two most important fights, Plant and Lee, and Pacquiao and Thurman, I've already spoken on those. So it's not being, showing favoritism to the zone. It's just kind of no more to talk about the PBC action. So looking at this Whyte-Rivas fight, which has all kind of implications, PBC implications. Whyte is... to think that he went 11 rounds before the stoppage against Chisora just it doesn't have me like overly on the Whyte. It doesn't have me overly big on Whyte as someone that can make noise. There have been performances and wins where I thought that he deserved a shot, and where him as an opponent for Wilder would be interesting. And I'm just saying this. If Whyte is fighting Deontay a couple of months ago instead of Brazil, I definitely think it's some level of back and forth versus Brazil, who basically never got off the stool. I do think Whyte brings something to the table. But here, Oscar Rivas, again, I don't think he really blew away Bryant Jennings until he finished Bryant Jennings. So I think this is a good matchup. I'm glad that DAZN picked it up. Obviously, it puts their guy, or Eddie Hearn's guy, Whyte, in front of American audiences. And I believe there's a WBC interim belt or something that's up for grabs now. And if he can win that, it further solidifies his position to get a shot at Deontay Wilder at some point unknown to everybody, at this current time. Rivas, of course, is a heavyweight fight, so he has a chance to win it. I think both of these guys are kind of the shorter heavyweights. Maybe not the shortest, but shorter heavyweights. So I expect it to be a pretty good fight. Rivas has some impressive, amateur wins. I dig his coach, Mark Ramsey. I think he's an underrated, trainer. Whyte is undefeated. Rivas is undefeated, and has, good knockout ratio and whatnot. It'll just be interesting to see how he builds on the momentum that he, garnered from defeating Bryant Jennings in exciting fashion, getting that stoppage in the late round. I'm interested in seeing that one. Pivoting over to Canelo Alvarez stepping away from the September 14th date, and kind of throwing the final dirt on, DAZN's plans with Triple G. My interest in, with Canelo Alvarez is kind of mixed. The notion that he's willing to fight anybody and everybody, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that or see that. Not saying that he's afraid of anybody, but I guess I'm just struggling to see that, Andre was out there. We also have Jamal out there. Now that IBF was toying around with the mandatory situation with Sergey Derevyanchenko and whatnot. But I guess for me, without seeing, with it coming down to Triple G, I guess DAZN just can't win. Usually the money is an issue. In my opinion, even if, we're not worrying about pay-per-view sales here and seeing if there was a major fatigue in the public with Alvarez, with Canelo, Triple G, with the trilogy fight. It didn't really matter if the pay-per-view buys wouldn't have been here and that affected the money. The money was already earmarked. It's an opponent that you're familiar with. You're a partner on some level. You're in a partnership with DAZN here to get to drive subscriptions and whatnot. And it almost takes me back to like Troy, the movie Troy with Brad Pitt, when he was Achilles. And the leader of that group that was invading Troy, I think his name was Agamemnon, was like, or Menelaus, I'm sorry, Menelaus. He wanted to go attack and, kind of finish off Troy while it was a bit weakened. And Achilles was like, nah, me and the Agamemnons, my people, all the dudes in the black leather and armor, were out. And, Menelaus was like, that's the key part to us getting this victory right here. And that's, Canelo is DAZN's Achilles. Damn near figuratively and literally. Like, you take him out of the picture, and it's like Kevin Durant's Achilles ripping. What moves the needle for them for the rest of the year, besides the the AJ fight, AJ and Ruiz fight. So again, like I said, man, it's kind of sad in a way to me, because here's somebody that has eliminated a lot of the uncertainty from boxing, and came in and tried to do right by some of these individuals, and nothing is good enough. I guess there is still a plan to maybe return before the end of the end of 19. We'll see if that happens. We'll see how the opponents shake out, or the opponent shakes out. But again, I'm just more of a mid-level boxing fan. I'm not gonna lie, man. It's a certain, watching the development of some of these guys, and then once they graduate to being real draws, and all the money is involved, and all the risk versus reward equation and all of that stuff, I don't really have time for it, man. I thought there was one other topic I thought I could sneak in with real quick. Damn, there was one other topic that was out there. My bad. Geesh, this is a bad moment, man. I don't have any way to edit this stuff. There was one other boxing topic that was out there. Obviously, we see the Spence and Porter fight is finally done. September 28th, headed for the Staples Center. I didn't really want to go into Ruiz, and I did that yesterday, I believe. So no sense in hitting on that. Vojdik and Beterbiev unification set for October on ESPN, on their platform, however they, however they settle that. What was the last damn thing that I wanted to mention? I already covered the Floyd and Pacquiao situation, and Freddie Roach needing to move on from that. Damn. I cannot think of what that last boxing topic was. Well, I guess that when there's nothing else left to be said and done, there's nothing less to say and do. So, hey, look, man, have a great fight weekend. Like I said, I'm not going to do anything tomorrow. I'm going to be on the road this time tomorrow, headed out to the to MGM National Harbor to check out this Teofimo Lopez and Masayoshi Nakatani card. Kind of being in my lane. Like I said, the finances aren't there to get out west to, Thurman and Pacquiao. But it's still work to be done, so I'm going to head out and do that. Again, man, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Peace.